Well, thanks.
Recording in
Thank you, Diana. And thanks to all of you for taking time out of your day. So we want to be sure, work hard to make this of value to you, this time that you're spending with us. So we're going to do a quick word of thanks, quick introductions, and then we're going to explain what you're going to take away from this webinar. We want to reinforce that. And what you're going to get from that, we developed a top 10 list to kind of show you everything required to automate your enterprise and also to develop a mature automation strategy. And we'll open it up for questions. So first, a word of thanks. Janice at the OHA group, just terrific, helped us a lot in this. But a real special thanks to Diana at UiPath Community. She's conducted some really high quality events, and we really want to express our gratitude to her. So thank you very much, both Janice and Diana. So today, you really have a kind of a unique speaker. Tom is a gentleman, I've worked with him for going on 5, 6 years now. And he's actually automated his two different enterprises. He successfully implemented automation and also developed the automation strategy for two different companies, not just one. So he truly has that unique perspective. He's done this twice. So he's really our guest presenter, and I'm going to supplement some things in with Tom as we go. And there's me, and what I bring to the table is I've been hands-on with over 60 high complexity automations for a number of different companies and a number of different industries. So I'll share what I've experienced over, over the past 5 or 6 years. So what you'll take away from this webinar, our objective here is to truly give you a feel for what it takes to automate your entire enterprise. Automation is quite the thing. I think it's universally accepted in the marketplace. And so we want to share our experiences on what it really takes, right? The good, the bad, the challenges, the benefits, that sort of thing. And then right along with that, so you don't want to be tactical about this. You want to have a mature automation strategy in place. And that's going to be important, as you're going to see in a minute, to maintain your competitive edge, your company that is, right? So this quote, this quote meant more to me than any other quote I've read. And there's lots of information out there, but this was a dramatic quote by McKinsey and Company over 7 years ago. And they explained the average company 900 plus business processes, but the dramatic part was 85% of those can be automated. So we all know organizations, corporations, B2B businesses, they all work towards a better bottom line. That's their corporate objective, right? So if automation can help that bottom line, then what you know is they're going to eventually reach that 85% of their processes being automated if it has true business value. So that's why I put there, in other words, why would I automate? Well, you're going to automate because your competitors are automating and it'll drive you towards a better bottom line and it's doable. You can automate, right? The software technology is mature. These business processes, some of them land right in the sweet spot of automation. So this is why that you actually do want to get on this train and begin automating your enterprise or continue. So in doing so, why is a automation strategy important? Well, this was a study from a year ago. And what it's showing is that your high growth firms are the ones that are kind of pulling away from the competition, right? They broke the automation down into three broad groups, as you can see: general business software, mature core business software, and in marketing and sales software. Okay. So what Tom and I are going to speak to is that middle pillar, the core business software, right? And you're going to hear a lot about that today. But this is why it's important to have a strategy, right? You can approach this. We've had a number of clients where we really started off in a very tactical sense, right? We knew a process we wanted to automate. We went ahead and did it. That was great, had business value and all that. But you need an overall strategy going forward. And, for 3 years, 5 years down the road, where you want to go with this, how you want to handle the new and emerging technologies. So what we did to achieve that, show you how to develop a mature automation strategy and to explain what it takes to automate your enterprise. We developed a top 10 list. Okay. These top 10 topics that we're going to cover today really lends itself and explains everything you need for those two objectives that we just explained. And we're going to walk through these one by one. But first and foremost, selecting your automation platform and your first business process and why that's so important. Talk about business value, ROI, engaging your business community and IT. And then once you get one of these business processes automated, then how do you select your next processes to automate? How do I train and educate my company? And then beyond just RPA, our main focus is going to be on RPA, but there's a number of other automation technologies that are maturing and being adopted in the marketplace. So you want to keep your eye on those and put them on your radar, right? And then we're going to go, talk a little bit about the strategy, show you a sample roadmap, and then also talk about an automation center of excellence. And then Tom is going to explain some challenges he's encountered, what he would do differently, and I'll share what I know about mine. But the important thing is Tom's very well versed in all 10 of these, but especially that one. That's always what people want to hear about. What are the challenges and what would you do differently if you were starting? So, with that being said, we're going to start with selecting your automation platform. So, Tom, I put significant dates in there. I know you were very astute about your due diligence researching automation. And I remember when I first met you at that Oracle User Group event in the winter of 2018, and we spoke, you explained to me you had just attended a Gartner event down in Scottsdale, Arizona. That was regarding automation. You also explained to me you were doing some automation yourself internally. So I want to start with that, Tom, because you did this a long time ago. You did your homework, and if you want to share with the audience kind of what you came up and how you did that.
Sure. Well, you pretty much stole some of my thunder there, I suppose. But yeah, I think today, and looking at this Gartner chart, it's even more obvious to me that UiPath is a market leader and has the functionality, to do well beyond your basic RPA structures. So, but at the time, they were still looking pretty good on the Gartner chart. I in that particular event was with other CIOs, and a lot of them hadn't even started the journey yet, but Gartner themselves had talked at great length about automation, where you should be at, some of the things that we're going to talk about today. But in particular, they had recommended UiPath very strongly as a good future player in the marketplace. Already had some good groundwork going on, and so I talked directly to an analyst at that meeting as well, and found that he was suggesting that's a good one. He suggested others as well, said there were other platforms were good, but he said this is a good company and a growth strategy that they have. And so that put me on a pretty focused path. I don't like to I don't necessarily like to go through a lengthy RFP process and RFI process and vet out a lot of solutions if I get good recommendations from Gartner, and so that's kind of what I chose here. And so it just happened to be fortuitous, as you mentioned, that pretty much coming out just a few weeks later out of that meeting, that that we were at the NCOEG meeting, and we had that conversation about it, and you were talking about UiPath in particular and RPA overall in general. So it didn't take long for me to come to the conclusion that was the right tool that we could build from, and that's where we're at today. Now it's my second company. I didn't even, when I came here, when I joined BBB Industries, I certainly didn't look at any other option other than just bringing UiPath in here, and depending on what I'd already accomplished at my previous company along the way. So Everyone can, make their own choices, and there's lots of different ones out there in the marketplace. But if you look at the breadth of what we have at UiPath, it's pretty clear that that's the right platform.
Thanks, Tom. And he kind of spoke to this a little bit. I think one of your more important traits or characteristics to look for is, does that platform provider have a complete automation portfolio? So back when we chose it, okay, we partnered with UiPath at Oracle Open World in September of 2017, the Alliance. And I think we were fortunate. We chose them, and back then they were actually not number one. Okay, there were two competitors ahead of them. But I was glad to hear Tom say Gartner was recommending them. They had a little bit more vision than we did, but we did choose them, and it was just kind of a fortunate reason that we chose them. And what has happened since is they have taken over that number one position, as you saw in the Magic Quadrant from 2022. They surpassed those two competitors ahead of them. And they also went public in April of 2021, enabled them to have, further resources like any good software company needs to keep expanding and improving their product line. So we felt good about who Alliance chose as an exclusive RPA partner. And what the kind of things that you look for when I say a complete automation platform, I listed some things that are mature that you can actually buy today and use today in business. But it's not going to stop there. This is going to go, next year, we could add one or two more bullets on what to look for in an automation platform, because technology has just gone through the roof. It's receiving great acceptance and adoption in the marketplace. So there'll be more products, but these are the products that are out there now. And so what I did was, to give you an idea, in kind of a sequence, we started with RPA, which is in the Studio family, you can see from the red arrow, and Orchestrator. Those are two of the components, along with the unattended robot, that it takes to build an automation. And then machine learning, UiPath actually adopted that, and that was a kind of a machine learning way of their document understanding product of dealing with semi-structured data, extracting the data, and using it for further automation. Artificial intelligence, you can see they had an AI center down here. Process mining up here, that is the future. Pretty much every person on this call today will one day be using process mining. That's our prediction, our position on that. And then task capture, that's one of the great automation tools that UiPath has. Automation Hub, that's a terrific tool that we use, especially for the Automation Center of Excellence. And then also automated testing, okay, which we're going to speak to, and we just kind of started that with Tom, but UiPath has put out a UiPath test suite, which is really kind of trending up automated testing in general. So that is, by our standards, a very complete automation platform. And that's one consideration you want to make when you choose that. There's a lot of other automation platform providers, but none that we know of that have this complete of a product line. So the next topic was selecting the first business process to automate and why this was so important. Tom can speak to this better than I. However, I will tell you, to think of your first business process you choose to automate, that's make or break, okay? A lot of things can go wrong when you're implementing a new technology. And what I did was I gave you some research from 4 years ago, but RPA actually got a bad rap back then, 4 years ago, because a lot of these projects were failing. Well, there's some reasons it's failing. It was fairly new to the marketplace and all that, but the market has kind of since corrected. But Tom, I'm going to let you go first. I just threw out some bullet points, I think, but you and I know how important that process, that first one is.
certainly with this tool and technology, which is newer for a lot of organizations, it's very important to hit the ground running and have a solid footing, from there. So I'd say like a lot of projects that we run in our IT department, without, I'll say business involvement, business leadership and acceptance, you're just not going to succeed. You can put up technology, but if you're not solving a business problem that's important to the business, and if they're not engaged, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's, basically it. But so when we started the RPA journey back at our previous company, and I did the same thing here, I started with a conversation with some of the business leaders and talked about what this technology can bring. So I started with, with my peers, the different vice presidents within the organization, and got them, a little bit understanding of it. But then I said, I'm going to drop down and we're gonna try to solve, one problem, one particular area. Who wants to sign up for this? And I was able to get a lot of hands up, of course. And then we talked through, a couple of use cases, and I didn't want to pick something that was too complex for us to do first. I didn't want to pick something that was too simple that wouldn't necessarily bring some great benefit and have a good show. So, but at both organizations, when I started, I'd selected something that was kind of right in that middle spot. So, not too hard, not too complex, because I wanted to be able to get it in and out, relatively quickly, and have it for my, what I call the road show, which is something that I use in order to evangelize, the word that you have there. I'm looking there, Glenn, and it's to make it so that people then will see the results. They'll hear it, of course, in the hallways, but I want to be able to see it. So we actually record the RPA that's running in a production mode, and we're able to kind of show that to the business so they get to see it. Because speaking to the concepts, it's much better when they actually see it live. But picking that first one is very important. Having the right business people, the leadership that's interested in it, and the business subject matter experts that you're going to work with, having them engaged and interested in doing this. We start with a little bit of fear. A lot of times people have that, it's like, oh my gosh, a robot is going to replace my work. You hear that kind of stuff. And it's like, that's not about that. It's about freeing you up. It's about freeing your department up from some mundane work that you have to normally do. Everyone has it. And so in our areas, in my prior company at Brake Parts Inc., we actually automated two similar processes, actually back to back in our pilot. And it was about going to customer portals, pulling off information, bringing them into our system, and interacting to create orders and or place orders on hold as necessary based on customer demands. It's a process that we couldn't automate through EDI or any other process because we didn't get the information from our customers directly like that. So customer service people had to do this manually. It took them hours per day, every day, to do that. So it was a win for them when they realized that then they'd be freed up to be able to do something differently. And here at BBB Industries, one of the first processes we did was a system-to-system integration, where we have different ERPs that are running currently here, and we needed to take information off of one ERP and then and create an order on another one so they can actually out a shipment to certain customers under a specific rapid response program that we have with the customers on orders availability, or product availability, I should say. But I'd say the keys is definitely having a pilot that you can accomplish in a short number of weeks, maybe say 8 weeks, and the leadership understanding of what you're going to get out of that, and then being able to demonstrate it and record it so that you can use it for a roadshow. I think that really helped in our success going forward. Obviously, there's the mechanics of making it all work, but from that perspective, I think that was important. So, Glenn, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that.
The only thing I have to add is, I'm sure the audience can kind of tell now, although Tom is currently an executive vice president and a CIO, he actually thinks like a CEO. And you probably just caught that in what he was saying. He first went to everybody in upper management and explained, hey, here's what it is, here's what it can do, which was a very strategic move. Other than that, Tom, I wouldn't add anything to what you kind of hit all the important high notes there. So,
all right.
So next up is, okay, great. It's great technology, this and that, but where's the business value, right? It's going to hit you early on in your journey, right? You're going to have to explain this. You're going to have to clearly define this and be able to kind of share it with others. So the reason I put that first bullet up there, when you use UiPath Automation Hub and you actually submit an idea, it makes you choose first, okay, what are you trying to achieve through this automation? It gives you three options and you can only pick one. And everybody wants to pick all three, but you have to decide, like, are you attempting to achieve this mainly through for cost reasons, right? Reducing costs, for productivity, getting more work done, or for quality, because we all know RPA increases data quality. So you actually have to choose this. So you might want to think about that early on and note that surveys say when this is asked about, right, most executives say they're really looking to improve the quality, right? The quality of their business processes and things like that. The other things, business value achieved. Tom, I threw a few things out there, and I think I'd rather let you speak to this more so than me. But you remember the chart about comparing, other high growth firms to other firms with a mature automation strategy. You want to maintain your competitive edge. One way to do that is automation, when you can get a job done quicker with less errors and even save some money, right? Is part of the business value that this is a big part of your digital transformation, what the word on the street is now. Or at the very highest level, you simply want to move the needle on EBITDA. So, those are kind of the thoughts that I threw out, Tom, but I'd love to hear what you think on this.
Yeah, I know. I agree with the points you had put out there for the most part, and the quality thing is something that I think people miss a lot. And we know that if we do an automation, you're going to be able to do it quicker. In fact, when you see automation, I don't know who on this call might have seen automations in place previously. It can be very fast compared to someone keystroking, right? But the key is that the automation doesn't make a mistake. It's not prone to any kind of error. If anything, it might stop and require a restart if it depending on what the complexity is. But it's not going to put a wrong field of information and fill in wrong piece of data. It just doesn't do it. So it is a combination. It's interesting on the when we try to qualify a RPA. It's going to save time. It's going to so therefore it will add productivity and such. But the quality is the one thing that you really have to know. There's no mistakes that's going to happen. The humans, as good as they are going to make a mistake, which could lead to a downstream problem later on when it's discovered. So that is always at the forefront. We do these automations primarily so that we're more efficient in our processing, and it frees up people to do a little bit higher and more productive work for us, and that gives us a competitive advantage. So the RPA itself isn't necessarily going to be what you think is groundbreaker. It's just going to be able to move us faster through the processing of what we have to do, and it is all over. I know we're going to talk a little bit later on about the opportunities that we have throughout the business, but there's not one department that doesn't do things that they manually initiate out of one or more systems to actually accomplish their jobs each day. And if we can actually, save a half hour a day or an hour a day or whatever in each particular department, that's value added, because that gives them a little bit more time to do something different. And the hour savings are quite a bit more than that. But so we consider it a big competitive advantage for us to be using automation. And so we're continuing down that path.
So here's my opinion is, here's the deal breaker sometimes, right? Okay, what's my return on investment? We deal with, as a partner, we deal with some companies that you simply have to show them, when do I get my return on investment? It's got to be in that magical first year, right? All sorts of things like that. So one reason RPA has been so successful in the marketplace is RPA, it's a little bit easier to measure RPA than perhaps other technologies like ERP, cloud, mobile apps, all that sort of thing, right? You can measure hard costs, labor savings, and to Tom's point, data integrity. If the robot doesn't make a mistake, but if the human did, then there's no more rework involved for that bad, business process or transaction that went through. So those are the easy things to measure. Okay. But there's some things that are not so easy to measure, but they're factors, they're drivers. And when we first got involved in RPA, what we heard was, okay, it frees your employees up to interact with their team more, with their customers more, with their suppliers more. It also frees them up for innovation and also analysis, right? I get to analyze the numbers. So it's difficult to measure that, but you will get that will uptick on you. You will actually get lift from those areas. That will actually happen. We've seen that. And so that's what we were hearing back in 2017 when we first got involved in RPA. Okay. But since then, what we've seen in market surveys and from our clients, we've seen some wonderful things that came out of this. The customer experience, we've seen that firsthand, less errors, the customer support teams don't have to help you out with an error because you don't make that error anymore. We've seen a lot of that where they were actually very excited about this new technology. And then also employee engagement. This employee engagement is now a metric, and you're going to see this. And surveys say that employee morale goes up as high as like 60, 70%. Employee engagement, there's hard numbers on that that gets up into, we've got them involved in automation and now they're much more engaged, therefore more productive, and on and on. So this is kind of what we saw in the beginning and what we've seen since then. So Tom, we'd love to hear your experience of both companies, what you experienced here.
Thanks, Glenn. So, yeah, definitely what you're talking about. Everything we do here, and everywhere I've been, pretty much, you'd like to have a solid business case for what you're doing right away, and the buy-in for RPA and UiPath in particular to get started, and of course you can ramp up. But it is actually a very low bar in terms of it doesn't take much. The first automation we put in place pretty much covered, I'll say, the first annual cost of our product. Obviously, we did a jump start, which is very important for us to jump start with your team, Glenn. Back when we first started at the previous company and this one as well, to get that first RPA up and running and get the benefits showing. But I go back to this. I'll say the soft elements of what the ROI would be as well, and quality is not soft at any means, right? Quality has a cost at the end, but it's very important that we recognize that there's a relatively low bar, a low cost of entry with the UiPath that I believe really helps, and that it only takes a couple of RPAs for you to identify quickly on to basically start getting on the positive side of that. And then the rest of the year, let's say if it's on a yearly basis, the remainder of those RPAs that you put in place, those automations, are going to reap that extra benefit. So you just have to be diligent about documenting the process, honest to yourself about how much time you spend. Sometimes people don't want to say how much time they spend on a process, because it's, kind of their little, I'll say hidden secret, but it's, if they don't want to admit that maybe they're taking too much time doing a lot of manual work. But when you actually get that, that's important to jot down. We keep the spreadsheets. We use the automation hub to track that as well. And it's important so that later on you can go back and reflect on that. Okay, this automation did remove that work. It gave us absolutely best quality that we'd expect. And then what else did we do with that time? And then you actually use that as an extra benefit, not only to save the time, but then what did I do with that? So that's the keys.
Awesome. So here's a little thing that we do at eAlliance. We constantly monitor the automations we put in place for our clients, and then we average them all out. Now, all you're seeing is the finance and accounting automations we've done. We've done a lot of procure to pay, order fulfillment, even some HCM, things like that. But bottom line, you can measure this to a degree, as you can see. And, the surveys say you're going to get up to 30% improvement on data integrity. Most RPA projects that will provide a return on investment within the first year. Tom spoke to that eloquently. Most RPA projects you can actually complete within 2 to 3 months, which is a real winner, right? You got the quick win. And then you do have to show some benefits. How many hours did I save? Right? So those are just some metrics that we track for that sort of thing. So engaging your business community and your IT department. And I, Tom, I've listed a few things here. You can speak to all of these obviously better than I can. But I can't tell you, sometimes, you got to put in a little bit of effort on the front end. And there's some things you can do to like provide ownership to different departments in your organization to get their buy-in. If they have ownership, then they're much more likely to buy in. And the Center of Excellence is one of the examples of that, along with a workshop. People even do incentives. They do events when you roll out an RPA project and that sort of thing. But Tom's kind of the master of the roadshow for upper management. In fact, that's the first time I heard that term, Tom. So if you want to speak to how you get your business folks and your IT folks engaged.
Thanks. Yeah, so yeah, I've been using the roadshow word for a while. I'm not sure where I come up with it. I'm certainly didn't become the original author of that. But as I said earlier, the initial conversation and describing something to the business, the business leaders, conceptually, everyone kind of gets it. I use a lot of times specifically on the RPA front. I say it's like a macro on steroids. A lot of times I like to kind of use that reference. It's like, essentially, it can do the same keystrokes any employee can do, but still it's in their head. They have to kind of imagine it. So when I do pick that first project, I pick one that actually has a lot of front end stuff that you will actually see. RPAs can do a lot of things behind the scenes. They can run queries, they can do all kinds of stuff, but you don't really see that. So I try to look at that first one as actually capturing something that will go to different screens, pull up information, do a search, only because I know that will actually present itself well when I actually record it in action. And I've gone as far as when I record these, when you see the bots going, I will annotate those. I'll have music behind them, and I usually just keep them. It's a short, usually a couple of minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, but then I actually can speak to them as well. And what happens is when I have that is now a wide audience, not just with the upper management, can actually just see that and kind of get it. Now they understand what it really can do and open their eyes to, oh, I do that. I open a spreadsheet and I pull data out and I go into a system and do that. And that is very, very valuable for sure. And doing that. And that's what generates I'll say more business for us in the RPA world. I'll see what it can do. So I speak volumes on that one. And that's why it's the selection of the first one is very important to make that good show.
Thanks, Tom. So you've done picture yourself, you've done a successful first RPA automation. Now, where do you go from there? How do you pick your next automation or plural automations, moving forward? And I threw some thoughts out there again, Tom, the ROI, that's always kind of looking at you. Does this thing pay for itself? When you assess an automation in Automation Hub, it delivers to you a percentage on ease of automation potential, which is very helpful. And I personally think choose the right subject matter expert. So you're gonna be going and identifying the business process you're gonna automate, and there's gonna be a subject matter expert that owns that process, or multiple subject matter experts. And some are more progressive and helpful and communicative than others. So that's always a factor, a driver to consider. And what you can do after you've done the first one, maybe you've done the first one in finance and accounting, maybe now you want to move over to a different department. And, so you're moving horizontally across the enterprise. And there's always pain points. We've had instances, Tom, where, the CFO just told us, Glenn, this is a pain in the what, and so just automate it, right? So I mean, that counts for morale and a few other things too. But these are kind of my concept of what you consider as you move forward after the first one.
So before I touch on that topic, I did see a question pop up, and it was asking about what we use to record. And so it's very simple, actually. We just got to get on a Zoom call. We might use Teams because we use both here, and we just have that up while we're actually launching the RPA. So it's really just we just do that inside of a normal meeting that you can record. So we don't have to have any special software to do that. Just like recording this meeting now. So it's as simple as that. I want to make sure everyone knows that nothing special there. Anyways, so going back again to that first automation you pick, and it's very important that's a good one, and you get the right subject matter experts. So I think of a subject matter expert is a lot of times it's I'll say the hands-on person that's very knowledgeable of that. But I want to make sure that I have supervisory or a manager that's actually also involved in the project. The person that does the automation, sometimes might feel that they're losing some of their, some of their grip on what they do daily. Some of them will recognize that it's a pain in the butt. They just want to get rid of it. So I've seen both play out there. But I just definitely I always make sure that we have a good manager level person that's actually, they might not be the best person from the SME perspective, but they're the ones that will actually drive it for me. And it's so important that you find someone that is going to be an evangelist, that's maybe always looking for something new, because they're going to help sell it as well. So it's not just about the success on that project, the pilot project or the second project, but it's about them helping to evangelize it, because might be concentrated in one area. Glenn, you mentioned finance, and certainly there's always a lot of opportunity in finance, but it's other areas of the business. Every area will need that, and if you get someone that is used to talking with other areas of the business, then they'll help speak for you. That's very important.
Training and educating your organization. Tom, I'm going to let you go first, and then I got a few things on that I want to
share. Sure. So so I mean, a lot of things kind of just keep building if you think about it. So that pilot is something how we, I'll say we educate from the perspective of getting people to be aware of what RPA is. That's very important on, letting them know, what's capable there. There's a reference here for citizen developer where we have that program going on here at BBB Industries. Very important. That's excellent. And the people that you select in your user community that can be citizen developers, citizen RPA developers, very important. Again, they have the same attributes. They're evangelists. They like trying things new. They don't give up when they hit a little, speed bump. But that's the right, kind of candidates you want. And what do you expect them to do, or what we expect here at BBB Industries, is that they'll be able to tackle the attendant, robot needs. I'll call them lighter automations. And when they're actually thinking of solving one of their problems, they might run to that's as far as they can go with their process. And then they'll call up my RPA team, and they'll say, hey, I'm trying to do this. It looks like I need this to, I need a little bit more beef in this, in this automation. And my team will assist them and help them over the hump, or we'll actually bring that into a more of a full-fledged, RPA program. But the key is having a constant churn of ideas. And the more, I'll say, evangelists that you get within the organization, the better off you're going to be. There's great formal training. The UiPath has an unbelievable amount of educational materials that not only do my staff and IT actually use and rely on, but I'm finding that the business community is able to, use them as well. A lot of good examples out there. So, Glenn?
Yeah, my opinion on UiPath Academy is that's one reason that they're number one now. Because that academy, to Tom's point, is excellent. There's everything out there. So difference between training and education. Training is clicking, where to click, where to go. Education is best practices, why you do this, why you do that. We believe in combining instructor-led and self-paced online learning. That's a really potent combination, okay? And instructor-led, has a lot of benefits to it. Citizen developer that is trending up all over the place. And the reason I put bandwidth, Tom, is usually almost every one of our clients said, Glenn, we want to be trained. We want to be able to build our automations internally. And so the citizen developer thing works out really well. But the problem with the RPA for IT, the training and education, they usually don't have the bandwidth. Somehow the business people find the time, the IT people just they're strapped. So that I would categorize as a challenge.
Yeah, let me add on to that, Glenn, if you really could.
Oh, yeah,
Might not be
absolutely.
obvious, but so we're at the point within our company that I have an automation team. We do all different types of automation within the company, but you're right. It is a finite set of resources and projects that we have, which are prioritized on payback and such. But I'm still use E-Alliance as my primary partner. And so, because I know, with our growing list of things that we need to do, I don't want to wait until my guys free up. So I'd rather have them take on one or two automations per quarter, take on those, take care of those while we're doing some other automations in both UiPath and some external with different tools and technologies. And because at the end of the day, we're trying to get the most benefit to the business as quickly as we can. So everyone's going to do it a little bit differently. But for myself, even though we are self-reliant and we can do it, the bandwidth issue is definitely, I'm choosing not to actually add another person at this time and use a partner for that.
Thanks for adding that, Tom. It's an important point. So the Economist magazine said this is the year of the employee, 2022. You do have to listen to your employees. But this graph, these percentages are just to show you that the new workforce understands that things can be automated. They demand the skills training from their employers. Then if you look to the far right, so those two metrics, the global employees, right? That's 30,000 employees surveyed worldwide. But specifically US office workers, almost 1/3 of them want RPA skills. And these are not IT folks necessarily. So training and education is important from your workforce perspective. They expect this, they want this, they're almost demanding it. Here's just a little bit. We have a structured course for RPA training and education for IT, and then one for the citizen developer. I will tell you, and then here's more detail on the citizen developer training and education program. We've had tremendous success with this. We can honestly tell you, every 1 hour instructor-led session we do, we have our customer citizen developer actually successfully build an automation. And it's impressive. So, so in spirit of time, watching the clock. So beyond RPA, other automation technologies in use are being planned. And Tom is a visionary. You probably already caught that by now. But kind of in conjunction with RPA, there's machine learning, there's automated testing, process mining, and artificial intelligence. And I will speak briefly to these. Here's an example of combining machine learning with working with RPA. It's just something as simple as an accounts payable invoice automation. So as you get these invoices from your supplier, and if like sometimes they're PDF native format, which you don't need machine learning for. You can actually extract the data just using straight RPA in the OCR that's contained inside there. But if it goes to scanned image or other type of file formats, if the input file gets a little bit trickier in the semi-structured data, that's when you introduce machine learning. UiPath's tool for that is called document understanding. And that jumps into the process flow, use that, extract the data, move it over to Excel, nice and friendly, now it's structured, and then go on, and then eventually your robot can end up entering the invoice straight into Oracle Business, call an API, or any other ERP system you have. So this example, machine learning. This is automated testing, which we just began with Tom. Very excited about this. Automated testing in general in the marketplace trending way up. And UiPath has put out a tremendous product, the UiPath Test Suite, and it does regression testing. It's helpful for patching, upgrades, migration. And you see a lot of surveys. I look at the conservative one, it will cut your testing time in half easily, but it'll also improve the quality of that. And then here's process mining. And what I'll do is I'll stop here, Tom, but any thoughts on these other technologies in use or being
Well,
planned?
I think you gave a good overview of them, and with time I want to be careful there. So I'm really excited about the automated testing with UiPath. We're just starting this journey right now. because we have a various number of ERP products, on-prem. We have cloud products. We use a lot of Oracle here as well, both cloud and on-prem. And patches are ever present always, and we want to make sure that we can get a good regression test in. And I've tried a lot of different testing tools in the past, and I've always found them to be, they sound better than they really are. It's it's really tough to manage. So far, we're pleased with what UiPath is offering, and we're hoping that it's going to be a good solution for us to manage successfully. So, in terms of the document understanding, the machine learning and such, that's something that we have going on as well. And yeah, it's like you're extending out what normally is you consider like an OCR type of application where it can actually pull and extract data and use it, understand it. So that is definitely in the forefront of what we're doing. We haven't completely got to the AI component yet. That's going to be next. We're looking at some of that in terms of our data analysis that we're going to be doing off of our business intelligence products. So that is the case. And process mining, as you spoke to, I think we can leave that as it is. That's certainly a great tool to understand what you're doing in your business. So,
thank you. And then quickly, I'll do strategy, roadmap, automation center of excellence, executive sponsorship, big part of your strategy, aligning automation initiatives with your corporate goals and initiatives. Always important to define success. The more specific, the better. And then the budgeting is going to cost money, right? So in the old days, IBM had an equation, what percentage of revenue would go to an IT budget. But you could kind of look at it that same way. What percentage of our overall revenue is going to go to automation? Here's a sample roadmap where your all important step, first automation, then the center of excellence, and then building an automation pipeline, bringing in other departments, process mining. Your organization might be ready for it, or it might be a few years down the road, either way. But notice step 5, continuous automation training and education. And then step 6, moving the needle on EBITDA, everybody has to do that. So, you're introducing this into your roadmap. And then here's some thoughts on the center of excellence. This was UiPath's first initial pass on a actual RPA center of excellence. We focus on what you see in the red rectangles. Okay, the technical, as a partner, we take care of all of that. But the collaboration with the client, setting up a center of excellence, and we've done that with Tom a couple of times, is your centralized knowledge management, standardizing how you do this stuff, specific RPA application functional knowledge. That's working with the subject matter experts. And they, almost by osmosis, they pick up the automation process expertise. And then the people, the most important thing, right? Training and development, communication with them, and change management, because you are changing things upstream and downstream, right? And then, so Tom, those are my thoughts on strategy, roadmap, and center of excellence. Anything you'd like to add in there?
I think it's real important to note. I think you had that with the budgeting is to, with an automation. I have an automation team, and RPA is a specific function within that. And I established that team because they're really self-funding. So they exist to automate and improve our operations within the business. So we chart everything that we do. It's really important because you want to be able to prove your worth every year. So this is one tool in our tool bag. That's a big tool in our tool bag at this point now that can prove that out. So it's really important. Like I said before, this you talk about digitalization and everything that you're trying to do. What we're doing with RPA is actually improving the digitalization footprint, and roadmap that we're on. So it's a continuation of that goal. So
awesome. So, any challenges or anything you do different?
Plenty of challenges always, right? It's continuous improvement, just like any other process or project that you have, is always important. Kind of recognize that works for you is really important. So we talked about it's getting the right evangelist in your business, business world, selecting that right pilot project. Personally, for me, it's worked really well. Is create that roadshow. So record it, and then it will help bring on more work. And people will start seeing the vision more. And as you have that, record another one if that works for you, to say, here's the latest one. Advertise your successes for sure. Make sure when you're building the RPA that you create the audit function in there, so you really know what it's doing, whatever, how many transactions a day it's supposed to be creating, or hourly, or whatever the metric is, right, so that you can actually have that, and it can feed right back into your engine to prove out that everything's fine there. The one thing too at RPA is they even the unattended RPAs, I always say that's really a person. We name our bot, so we think of it as like a person that's doing work. But that bot, when it's doing a one particular task, there's a supervisor that would normally be assigned to a worker. So you got to make sure that the business leaders know that they're supposed to monitor the output of that bot, through whatever mechanism it is. It might be an email to say, I processed many transactions today or this hour or whatever it is. Because if anything ever happens and the bot stops its working, you want to make sure that you have knowledge that it stopped its work, or it found an error somewhere in a process downstream or upstream. And so the supervisor that's in the business has to make sure that they're actually checking on the work of that bot, just like they would any employee working for them. And that's their ownership in that once things are developed. But a true partnership with IT and the business, this is probably one of the many areas where you need to be aligned and together, and that's where I found success. We've been able to drive that. I know a lot of organizations, a lot of my peers at the executive level and other companies, these things are being led by the finance department, which is great. That's fine too. They're involving IT, that way. In my case, it starts from IT, and then we work with the business leaders. So, but whatever you're doing, make sure that you are having proper governance over what you're doing as part of the Center of Excellence, that you've trained the people properly, and that you create the list of what you're working on, so that you should have enough work for each year. Probably there's more work that out there than you ever really can accomplish, and you're selecting the best options for you. So we'll never run out of work, it would appear.
Thanks, Tom. We'll open it up. We got 4 minutes left. Diana, I don't know if you've been fielding questions or.
No, I have not. So let me just go back and see if there's anything there.
Covered those in the chat, which is good.
Tom answered one of those out of the chat.
No, that's it. So if anybody wants to open up their mics, I think we just got one in terms of educating and evangelizing the business. What would be the best approach in your point of view? Top down or bottom up?
That's a good question. So partly it depends on your organization, I'm sure, but for me, the evangelizing is bottom up, so, or midpoint up, because we selected it. But I start with top down in terms of everyone. I want all the executives to know, hey, this is the program we're going to start to do. We're going to tackle leaders in your organization that we believe are have need and are able to drive this type of program. And then so that's where you become bottom up. So the bottom up, the evangelists start at either the SME level or the managers of those SMEs that can actually speak to and go, wow, this is really pretty good. I want to do another one. And they'll fight for the resources to, hey, I want you to do mine next. That's what it works from that perspective. So a little bit of both.
Great. And I don't see any additional questions at this time. So if anybody would like to ask any,
I would recommend to anyone on the call, if you haven't quite gotten on the RPA journey, everyone's at different spots, I'm sure, but I would definitely say jump right in. That's what I always tell people. It's the buy-in is low enough that don't hesitate. Get in. You'll start seeing the improvements.
Great. So I'm not seeing any additional questions, Tom and Glenn. Thank you so much for hosting this session. And thank you everybody for attending. I did put in chat where the recording will be available tomorrow for those of you who are interested. So appreciate you all coming.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Diana.
Mm-hmm.